Hey Tribe, come along with us as we take a road trip from Atlanta, Georgia down to Tampa, Florida. Depending on where you live in the metro Atlanta area, the road trip down to Tampa can take anywhere from 6.5 to 7 hours. So be sure to prepare yourself with your best playlist and prepare your kiddos with lots of snacks and charge up those tablets. Pro tip, be sure to start early in the morning so your kids can take a long nap on the drive down. This way when they wake up, you'll be about halfway there and you'll avoid those "are we there yet?" conversations. Even though the road trip is a bit of a long haul, it's relatively easy as you stay on I-75 the whole way from Atlanta down into Tampa. Once we arrived in Tampa, we were starving and the girls were a bit stir crazy, so we headed directly to Sparkman Wharf to get something to eat. Sparkman Wharf has a wide variety of different local restaurants, and we decided to get tacos at Gallito Taqueria. It's also right on the water with some really great views. Next, we headed over to our hotel, the Marriott Water Street, to check in. The Marriott Water Street location is waterfront and is steps away from the Tampa Riverwalk and the Florida Aquarium. Be sure to check out our Marriott Water Street video for an in-depth tour of our room and the hotel. First up on fun things to do, we headed over to Glazer Children's Museum. We love a good children's museum. They're so interactive and fun, but the Glazer Children's Museum takes it a step further with their commitment to access and inclusion, including things like Sunshine Sundays, which is a special monthly event for children with special needs, and they also offer adaptability boxes with weighted vests, fidgets, and noise-canceling headphones. Pro tip, take the elevator and start your visit at the top, then work your way down. It can be really tempting to want to go directly to the water area, but I can assure you that if your kids are anything like mine, they will never want to leave. So we started upstairs, worked our way through the exhibits, and then saved the majority of our time for the water area at the end. Directly out and to the right of the Children's Museum is the Curtis Hixon Waterfront Park, which features a playground that has accessible toy structures. Then we were able to relax with a nice popsicle and take in the views of the river and the boats going by. At this point, we had worked up an appetite and it was time for dinner, so we headed over to the Waterview Grill. We opted to sit outside so that we could take in the views of downtown Tampa on the waterfront. The food was really delicious. I recommend getting the pan-seared scallops and the glazed pork belly. The next day we got up bright and early and headed over to Goody Goody Burgers. Now don't let that name confuse you because we came here for breakfast, and let me tell you, it was hands down the best breakfast I have had, not only in Tampa, but the best breakfast I've had in a long while. I would recommend anything on their menu, but whatever you get, make sure you get their brown butter maple syrup. It is divine. After that meal, all I wanted to do was go back to the room and take a nap, but instead we headed over to Zoo Tampa.
Welcome to Zoo Tampa!
Zoo Tampa was hands down one of our favorite things to do while we were in Tampa, primarily because they are autism friendly, and the zoo was the perfect size to navigate. There were lots of places for Rue to take a sensory break, and best of all, they have manatees. Need I say more? Be sure to catch our full Zoo Tampa vlog to see all the different animals that we saw during our visit and also our tortoise encounter. After our trip to the zoo, the girls and I were all famished, so we headed back to the Marriott Water Street Hotel and had lunch at their Anchor and Brine restaurant. In the middle of our meal, Rue ended up in sensory overload, but our server quickly jumped to action and had our meals brought to our room instead. What a lifesaver. The next morning, we started our day off at the Waterside Grill, which is also at the Marriott Water Street Hotel. We opted for the buffet option, but you can also order off the menu. And keeping with the theme that we have going on, we decided to eat outside because we could take in the views and it was really cool to watch the boats go by in the morning. We then headed over to Busch Gardens, and I'm going to jump in with an immediate pro tip. Be sure that you have a plan, especially if you're attending the parks on a Saturday. I did not adequately plan for rides or which animals we were going to see, so I felt a bit like a fish out of water, trying to make things up on the fly. Luckily, the girls had a blast and spent the majority of the time in the Sesame Street area. But if you have older kids, it may be wise to plan out your ride plan before coming to the park. Be sure to check out our Busch Gardens vlog to see our entire visit and to learn more about the animal connections encounter that we had. It was so much fun to get up close and personal with some animal ambassadors. The next morning we changed things up a little bit and actually went across the street to the JW Marriott to have breakfast at their Driftlight restaurant. They also offer a buffet option, or you can order off the menu. I highly recommend the poppy seed pancakes. Absolutely delicious. Next up, we headed over to the Florida Aquarium.
Welcome to the Florida Aquarium.
The Florida Aquarium is rated among the best aquariums in the US, and I can absolutely see why. And this is coming from people who have Georgia Aquarium in their backyard. Both of my kids love all things aquatic and marine life, so we could have easily spent the entire day there exploring. Be sure that you head out back to see the African penguins, and also don't miss the playground and water splash park for those hot Florida days. After leaving the Florida Aquarium, we headed to X Tavern, which is the perfect place for nostalgia, especially if you're an 80s or 90s baby. Let me tell you, nothing ages you quicker than having to explain what a Nintendo, an Atari, or VHS tapes are to your young children. But I didn't even mind because they had this Dunkaroo dip that took me all the way back to my childhood and made me so happy. I love being able to share that with the girls as well. Is it really a vacation if you don't go to the pool? My kids don't seem to think so. The Marriott Water Street Hotel has a rooftop pool, and they even have cabanas that you're able to rent. Rue's favorite part was jumping off the diving platforms in the middle of the pool. We ended our last night in Tampa by eating at Forbisi Italian restaurant. Pro tip, make sure that you make a reservation if you're coming in on the weekends. In the event that you do have to wait, the cool part is that you get to walk around Hyde Park. The Cavatelli was really good, and I love when an Italian restaurant has a good kids menu. The girls were both able to get things that they enjoyed, which is always a relief. On our last morning in Tampa, we headed over to Oxford Exchange to have breakfast. But Oxford Exchange is more than just a restaurant, it's more of an experience. It's a restaurant that also has a bookstore, a gift shop, and even has an eyeglass store in it. If you can get a spot to eat in the conservatory, I highly recommend it. The sun coming through the windows with all the plants just sets the perfect ambiance. Before we headed out of town, we made one last stop at Armature Works. It's a mixed-use event space, but the coolest thing is the Heights Public Market, which is a space that has a bunch of different food options with communal seating. We were still stuffed from brunch, but of course the girls can make space for dessert, so we got some sherbet at Astro and enjoyed the views one last time before we made the drive back home. We spent 5 days in Tampa and still didn't even scratch the surface. I can't wait to come back and explore more of what Tampa has to offer. What are some of your favorite things to see or do in Tampa? If you have questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching and keep the adventure going. Bye!